Living at Cause with Michelle Saffin. The MKS Assists team acknowledges the traditional custodians of the lands and seas on which we live and work. We pay our respects to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander ancestors and elders, and acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded. I particularly recognise the connection of traditional custodians to the Woiwurrung land and waters on which this podcast is recorded. Always was, always will be. Hello, welcome back to the podcast. I have an exciting episode today. Exciting for me, at least. No, kidding. Exciting because I went away. I finally took my business truly remote, and I'm excited because it was incredible. It was an amazing trip, and I want to share it with you. So it's August now. This podcast will go out this month, and it was actually last month that I finally took MKS Assists truly remote. One of the key priorities for me starting my own business was that I wanted to travel. The dream is living and working in a van while I travel Australia. But for now, I've been building the business from home. But I realized recently that I haven't been away at all since I went full-time in the business. So I've got this flexible business, and the most sort of flexibility that I've taken advantage of is scheduling therapy. Which is great. Don't get me wrong. It's a blessing. I'm so grateful to be able to do things during the week. It helps me a lot. It helps me regulate my nervous system. It helps me actually go to therapy. And it's also, I'm realizing now, which I didn't realize when I started the biz, is that being able to do my jobs in a slower pace and on weekdays when things aren't so busy really helps me. So it's like been incredible, and I'm so grateful that I've been able to build this business, and I've had support from loved ones. When things haven't gone so well, like I've got people in my corner. In saying that, doing chores on a weekday and going to therapy, while amazing, isn't the adventurous life I'd envisaged for myself. So when the opportunity came up for a group ski trip during the week, I was like, yeah, this is me. This is my moment. I booked in without hesitation. I envisaged working and also skiing because I was going to the snow on this group trip. But the closer the trip became, I realized I wouldn't be able to ski. I wouldn't really be able to spend much time outside because my ankle surgery was too close to the trip. And my recovery, this is a story for another podcast, and I will do a podcast about my ankle because it comes up in a lot of episodes and it's been a big part of my life. But long story short is I didn't really think about the second surgery having a long recovery time. I kind of tricked my brain into believing it would be quick recovery after the second surgery. So when I booked this trip, I was imagining skiing, not walking on crutches. Walking on crutches was the reality. So I was getting a bit anxious leading up to the trip, thinking maybe I should just cancel it. Like, I'm not going to be able to do that much. But then I thought, no, it doesn't actually matter. I get to work remote. I can work with a view. I can take some short walks in the snow. Like, that excites me in and of itself. I don't need to be skiing. So I was like, fuck it, I'm going. So I made sure I had all my logins set up on my laptop because I actually at home, I'm very lucky. I have a desktop that I work from at home with a bigger screen. So I had to make sure that everything on my laptop was set up to work remote and took off for a working holiday. Like, I cannot explain to you how excited I was. So we left on the Sunday morning. We went and provided some service at a scout park that was sort of like mid-morning to afternoon, then jumped back in the car and drove up to the mountain. By the time we arrived at the snow, it'd been a long day on the road and the sun had actually set, but it was snowing like actually snow was falling from the sky, which is not something I would ever put money on happening in Victoria. So it was quite special. My mate particularly, who was in the car with us, he hasn't seen, like, it wasn't the first time at the snow, but the last time he saw snow was, like, he said 2 or 3 years old. He's from Queensland, so not a lot of access. So when we pulled up to the mountain and it was literally snowing, he was stoked. Like, he was so excited. It was like he'd regressed to being 2 or 3 years old, like running around screaming, having the best time. His energy was infectious. Like, I think because it had been such a long day and I wasn't able to ski and I was just I wasn't down in the dumps. Like, I was excited about the trip, but I wasn't really sitting in the, like, gratitude and the specialness of it. So to have him running around, like, it just really reminded me, like, how friggin' awesome it was that I was up there, that it was snowing in Victoria, that I got to work, and I didn't have to, like, beg for time off. I didn't have to tell heaps of people that I was going. It was just, like, really, I just picked up my laptop and went. And that's so fucking cool. And I was only a couple of hours from home. So his energy, it was the perfect way to set the tone for the time that we were there. It just reminded me to really stay in gratitude and to live it up, like to really live it up and enjoy it. So it was 3 days. I was working with a view. I was kept warm by a wood fire, which is just the best feeling. Like, I really love wood fires. We actually have a fireplace at my home, but we rarely use it. So in the snow, it was the only heating. So it was blasting full time and it was just lovely. And it was the perfect balance between work and social time, because everyone would go out during the day, ski, play in the snow. I couldn't do that. So I would stay, work, do a little bit of reading, bit of knitting, and then everyone would come back for lunch and then everyone would come back at night and we'd hang out. So it was a really good balance. And not to mention that every morning it was snowing. Like, my bunk bed, because it was in a chalet with bunk beds, and I would wake up, sit up and turn around because the window was sort of where my head would be overnight. And every morning it was snowing. It snowed almost the whole time we were there, which is just incredible. Like I said, I just really sat in gratitude for the flexibility that my business gave me to be there in a really easeful way. It might have been possible for me to go to the snow while I was in an office job, but I wouldn't have been able to work while I was there. So I would have had to choose between income and holiday, and I would have had to go through a whole process. I would have had to sacrifice the pay to go, and there would have been a lot of stress before leaving. At the previous job, there was a lot of pressure to leave detailed notes for staff covering while I was away or when I wasn't working. And then to return to work, I would have had a lot of work to catch up on and lots of pressure to do that within a quick time frame to not, put anyone out. So the contrast of just picking up my laptop and leaving is fucking epic. Like, so friggin' cool. And it's funny, when I was away, one of the nights we were hanging out in the kitchen. We were actually cooking a Christmas in July, which I'd never done before. And I would really recommend it. It was a lot of fun. And I mean, you don't have to go somewhere where it's snowing to do Christmas in July, but to have a Christmas in July dinner with it snowing outside and the temperature was about -4, it really felt, I guess it was like we were playing Christmas carols and it was sort of like, oh, I get it now. I get the Christmas carols. I get the Christmas movies, because we don't have that experience in Australia. It's always so hot on Christmas Day. So Anyway, that's a bit of a tangent for you, but we were cooking up this meal. So there's lots going on, lots of different veggies, different people preparing salads. I'm trying to keep an eye on the meat and the cranberry sauce. And someone asked me how leave works in my business. And I said, well, I just left. Like, had I been skiing, I might have let my clients know that some work was shifting around so that I could reduce my workload so that I could spend time skiing and not sort of, I obviously wouldn't have been tied to the computer as much if I was on the slopes all the time. But she was sort of like, oh, well, do you record it? Like, do you record all your leave so that you know how much? And I said, well, there's no cap. There's no one to say that, oh, you can only take this much leave off your business. So I just left. And I worked, and there was no need for me to record that time or do anything else. It was just me and my laptop, and I was just where I wanted to be in that moment and working. It's pretty cool. That question made me reflect and think this is pretty awesome. Not only that I can work remote, but that it's my business, that it's something that I drive, and if I want to work somewhere else that's not home, I can just go and do that. And this trip, yes, it was awesome to be working from a new environment, and I think it was a nice shift up, something that I needed. I'd been working from home for such a long time, but also it just really reignited my excitement for the dream, like to work and travel in a van. I still really, really want that. That is, I think because it's taken a bit longer than maybe I initially thought, I was starting to distance myself from that dream and think, oh, well, maybe it's not really a dream that I have. But fuck yes, it's totally the dream. So I'm recommitting. I recommitted to this dream while I was away, and I'm committing now. I'm actively taking the steps to make it happen because it is still the dream. So aside from providing a life update for you, I talk about my snow trip on the Living at Gores podcast. Well, to me, the combination of things that had to happen for this trip to happen are examples of living at Gores. I set up my own business despite having a full-time job at the time because I desired more for myself. I have an online planning system, an online task list, which means I can easily work, adjust my schedule at a moment's notice and only require my laptop to do so. And if you want to hear more about my calendar planning system, then you can listen to the podcast episode on that one earlier in the month. I had to set boundaries with my clients. It means that I'm not at their beck and call 24/7. So if I go away and I'm working a little less while I'm there, or the hours are a bit different, they're going to be okay. In fact, they probably wouldn't even notice until they saw my Instagram stories. I've set up my life so that I'm in the driver's seat, and when an opportunity to travel comes along, I can easily take it, knowing that everything in life will adjust with ease, no stress. This to me is living at Gores, taking opportunities and being in the driver's seat, guided by intuition and seeking pleasure. Thank you so much for listening today. It's been awesome to share the good news and the exciting time that I had at the snow. I hope it inspires you to take the next opportunity that comes along and to set up the systems to make for an easeful transition.